Hi, I'm Mark at Wanamakers. Today's session we're going to talk about products that involve caulking compounds and expanding foams. There's many different types. We carry quite a few different ones. This is just a sampling of what's available. So today I think I'd like to start it off and probably bring up the most common problem that people come to us with, and that would be repairing a bathtub. And that is a pretty simple project and limited tools really. Basically you want to take, you could take a single edge razor blade or utility knife and you want to remove the old caulking. You want to cut that out. You want to make sure that if you do use a knife that your tub is porcelain tub and not a fiberglass tub. A fiberglass tub, you will damage it. So make sure that you use, if you're using a blade on it, that you use it on the porcelain tub only. There are other tools such as this one here that works like a pick that will actually get in behind the caulking to pull and remove it. Once you get the caulking out, you may want to take denatured alcohol, which is a product like this here, and you'd want to use like a 3M Scotch-Brite pad. You may have an old one of those under the sink that you're just using as a backup. Be fine to use that. Make sure that you get all the old caulking removed and cleaned. Then you're going to take either a small tube such as one of these. This is suitable here. There's a number of them that are, some of them are silicones, butyl rubbers, vinyl-based products. And you would use either a small squeeze tube like this if it's a small area that you're doing, maybe just touch up, or if need be you can use the full tube like this with a caulking gun, and I'll demonstrate how those work. Basically what you do is you would take a tube like this and you would take and cut a diagonal cut on the stem of it there. And when you apply it, rather than taking, squeezing, and pulling like this, you want to squeeze steadily and push. What you're attempting to do is to fill the crack and not bridge it. So by pulling it, you're actually bridging it. By pushing it, you're forcing it into that crack. How do you get a nice smooth edge on it? One is even squeeze, steady push. Don't stop and start. You'll end up with a scallop by doing that. Typically what I tell people to do when they're applying different caulkings like this is to do the two short sides of your tub first and then do the long side. The reason I tell them that is the two short sides are for practice. The long side is all for show. That's what people are going to notice, where the goof-ups are. And if you want, you can use a finger to spread it evenly. Some people will use a rag in their finger. I prefer not to do that. They actually make tools that you can use, such as these here, for smoothing a bead and getting it nice and smooth and without ridges. That's one way. Another way that I prefer, if I'm using a water-soluble caulking, such as this here or this one here, you can wet sponge. And by wet sponge I mean you can take a small pail of water, a damp sponge, and by using that sponge, drawing it right along that edge that you caulked. Nice and easy. Because they are water soluble in their wet state, you can rinse that sponge out. Sometimes I found myself that I've taken too much caulking off when I try and wet sponge it. If that's the case, just reapply some more. You've got time to work with it. It doesn't dry that fast. And let's talk about drying time. Preferably you want to put these products on in the evening so that you have a period of overnight setup time on it. So if everybody can get their baths in before supper time and or wait till morning, best time to do that. If you really get desperate, then you need to cover it so that if you're taking a shower, it doesn't wash off, because that can become quite a problem. Some of these other products, such as these here, the silicones and the butyl rubber, these are solvent-based products. So you would need solvents to clean hands, products, whatever. Silicone, one drawback with silicone is that it, once it's dry, nothing adheres to it very well, including itself, so that if you had to make an attempt to put another bead of caulking over it, chances are it's not going to seal properly or work very well. There are other types of caulking, that this one here, which actually comes in an aerosol can. It's like a, well, let's call it like Cheese Whiz. This is a pressurized can, so you don't have to control the squeeze that you have to provide with these tubes. This tube here, just push the nozzle and right along. You can get a real fine, delicate line with that too. That's a great item. They also make an item like this here. That's not a caulking, but it's actually a strip. And it's a self-adhesive strip. And what this does, if we can get a close-up on the picture, is goes right around the edge of the tub. So this is kind of quick, easy fix. It's not very permanent, but it's suitable for probably a year's worth of use. Some people are more at ease using a full caulking cartridge. And by using one of these, let's take the silicone. Well, that's a paintable one, but let's just take one just for an example. Tube like this, if you're going to do the bathtub, you take the tip off, and then you would take and cut the tip at an angle. You would take a nail or a long screwdriver and you would push it down. There's a seal or membrane in here that needs to be ruptured. You would then take your caulking gun. This is a ratchet type caulking gun, so the racket mechanism there should be in the up position in order to draw it back. If it's turned down, you can't draw it, so it wants to be up. Pull it back. Take the caulking tube. That's going to drop right inside the gun like that. Push forward. Turn that gear down, and you're ready to go. And by squeezing, you'll be dispensing. If you put the gun down temporarily, you'll want to take and turn that mechanism back up to relieve the pressure. Otherwise, the product will continue to ooze out on you. There's many different types of caulking guns, but basically they all do the same. This one here happens to be a very inexpensive one, about $4. This one here is for somebody that's using it quite frequently. Again, same type of mechanism. This one actually comes with a cutter for the tip. So you would take the tip of the caulking tube, put it in there, and there's a cutter that will cut the tip right off. Almost like they do with cigars. There's also, this one here comes with a nail-like protrusion on the front of it, and that is for pushing down inside the neck here to break that membrane. If you don't break that membrane, what can happen is when you go to use the caulking gun by squeezing, you get a backfire and all of the caulking comes out the rear end of the tube, and it's quite messy. You end up throwing the whole thing away by the time you know it happens. So that's pretty much what we have with bathtub caulkings and that type of thing. Beyond that, we get into many other types of caulking that typically are used for interior or exterior. Interior, it might be along like a painter's caulking, which is a very inexpensive caulking. That's typically used along the baseboard where the plaster meets the baseboard, along doorways, door frames, window frames. On the exterior of the house, it could be used again around windows, storm windows, resetting storm windows, gutters, many different things to prevent leakage and or air penetration. So a lot of these can be used for sealing a house beyond the typical weather stripping that we talked about in a previous session. What do you do with a tube of caulking once you've opened it up and only use a part of it? Well, there are tips and things that you can do. There's a product here, and as you can see, you just take that and push it right down into the neck of the caulking tube. You could do that, and oftentimes I use a big nail, screw, something like that. When you go to remove it, it's going to clear that nozzle a bit, and you may get one more use out of it. If it sits around too long, typically it's like glues or anything else that you have in the house. They dry up and go bad. So if it's not resilient and if you can't squeeze it, chances are it's dried up and it's of no use. If you get into situations where you have a deep crack, they make what's called caulk backing, and it looks like this material. It's like a foam rubber. And what you would do is you would take and apply that and take a screwdriver or a putty knife or something and push it into the crack. What you're doing is you're taking up much of the void by using a product like this and then just covering it with the caulking rather than using all caulking. And this comes in a number of different diameters, fulfilling different width gaps and cracks and things like that. This caulking here is an exceptional caulking. It comes both squeeze tube and caulking, full caulking. This happens to be a butyl rubber. This will adhere to itself after it's dried. It can be used down to 0 degrees temperature-wise. You can apply it to damp surfaces. Really good one. It's a little bit pricier. It's probably $7 a tube, but it's a great product. Also works very well as a glue. One of its statements on here says will stick to anything. Oftentimes I recommend it for certain things when it comes to adhesives or glues. That's a great product. One other drawback of silicone is that most silicones are not paintable, so that if you're choosing a silicone and you need to paint it, make sure that you get one that says paintable. Otherwise, paint will not stick to it. So those are your basic types. There's inexpensive ones that still last 35, 40 years. They come in colors. So there's quite a variety of these out there. Getting on to items that get into large crevices, large openings. These are the expanding foams. And as you can see on this display board, this is a triple expand. And if you can imagine, it's going to come out of a tube like this out of the can. So it's coming out this diameter, and when it sets and dries, and it's almost like styrofoam. When it dries this thickness after coming out this tube. So that takes care of very wide gaps. Other products, Max Fill, which is this one here. This one here is minimal expansion. This product you want to use in a situation where you're working with doors and windows. You might be putting in replacement windows, replacement sashes. Make sure that you want to use this product here because this is minimal expansion. If you were to use this one here, by the time it dries, you would probably bow your window and not be able to open your window. It would be too tight. So you've got to be very careful about using a full expanding foam on replacement sashes. Another interesting one, here's the fire break. This is used in a house, particularly on new construction, where pipes or wiring are run from floor to floor. Fire breaks are required by code now. That's what this product does here. Fire retardant in there, so it takes care of that problem. And another very popular one is this pest block. This is a great one if you're having a bad mouse problem or insect problem around the base of your foundations, fieldstone foundations. Most of you will probably notice around your garden faucet or silcock. Oftentimes there's an opening there. People will use this. I highly urge you that when using these products here, gloves, these products don't wash off. They're solvent based. There is no solvent. If you get it on your hands, it doesn't come off, and you just have to let it wear off. Trust me, I know. There is one product in here I didn't bring out. That's a latex water base. That is water soluble so that you can wash that off. So this is a must. Don't forget these when you're using these products. And then a couple of other products here that are available. These products here, if you need, or you get some real stubborn situations with caulking and you need to soften them, that's what these products are for here. These will soften the caulking and make it a little easier to remove. This one in particular is very good. As you can see, it softens caulk for easy removal, works on all caulks, use indoor, outdoor, good product. So I think that that gives you a pretty good demonstration of what's out there, what's available, and I'm sure that you'll still be somewhat confused as to which one to use and how to use it, but again, that's what we're here for. Come in anytime and step right up to the service counter here, and we can help you out and go through this whole session again. So thanks very much.